And we start with the Sowetan. And the Sowetan this morning, they're leading with exactly that last story in our news headlines. And Cheryl Zondi, Kawegazi Mukhale, a nation rallies behind Zondi. And it speaks to how South Africans have really taken to this very strong and credible witness that Cheryl Zondi has proven to be in the Omatoso trial. Mzansi stands by heroic Zondi as she stands her ground in the Omatoso trial. And also lawyers slated for insensitive questioning. Sowetan also running that on page 6 and says that is why victims don't report rape. So, and this is what our question is about this morning, our question of the day. Do you think that the way in which victims of rape, the way in which they are cross-examined should be changed? So we want your view on that as well. And I see they're already coming through those tweets. Thank you so much, but do keep them coming and we'll share them with the rest of the viewers later in the show. Also there, ANC Youth League stages a mock funeral for the EFF. Wife killer scared of jail bullies, and Colini duo guilty of boys' murder. Some of the other stories that the Sowetan covers today. And moving on then to the Citizen and their lead story, interesting one. Goodbye to your gun. Now, a new draft bill will make it near impossible for South Africans to own a gun. Now, when buying a new firearm or renewing a license, the bill states that self-defense and the protection of property or another person are not valid reasons to own a gun. Now, disarming the nation, that's how they refer to this on page 3. Draft bill, self-defense, protection of property, no reason to own a gun. And it says a 2017 version of the Draft Firearms Control Act will, if passed, make it a lot more difficult to buy a firearm or even to renew a firearm license. Now, it states that gun owners must provide a valid reason for owning a firearm. So now self-defense is no longer a valid reason, protection of your property is no longer valid, or the protection of another person. You can no longer forward those as valid reasons for owning a gun. So this one, I suggest we keep an eye on, because some of the lobbies will come out fighting here against this particular draft bill. And then also rape defense, how far is too far? A direct ire at the court probe of rape victim at society, not the legal system, because it reflects South Africa's rape issues. This is according to a lawyer that was interviewed by the Citizen. And longer lives for South African citizens, maybe. And it states that if recent trends continue, then the average life expectancy of South Africans may increase by 6.9 years to 69.3 years, according to a recent study. And that's very interesting. So people living longer, are we making provision for that? Making sure that we would be able to continue that long? And yeah, you don't want to hear the comments that I'm listening to. But it's an interesting one, and we need to make provision for these things. We always say that, but it's never as easy as it seems. And moving on to Business Day now, their lead story, SARS official, Gartner contract unethical. And the Nugent inquiry was told how the firm received a tax agency tender amounting to nearly 200 million rand. Now, the international advisory firm Gartner, along with a family friend of the suspended SARS Commissioner Tom Moyane, received a tax agency tender amounting to nearly 200 million rand in a manner described by a witness as unethical and improper. And one of those witnesses, of course, also spoke about how they had literally thrown out the rule book at SARS. And that was, of course, SARS current finance chief, Johnston Makubu, admitting that the rule book had literally been set aside. Mediclinic plunges on Swiss UK weaknesses. The share price of South Africa's biggest private hospital group, Mediclinic International, nosedived on Wednesday after the company warned of poor performances in Switzerland and the UK, with management describing the sector as experiencing unprecedented regulatory upheaval. And also on that front page, of course, President Cyril Ramaphosa sets terms for broad PIC inquiry. And this, of course, we also carried in the news. And Lex Mpati, retired judge, former president of the Supreme Court of Appeals, he will be assisted by former Reserve Bank Governor Jill Marcus and also asset manager Emmanuel Lediga in that inquiry. So those are the stories on the front page there. Those are the newspapers and what's making headlines. And don't forget to get in touch with us. Always want to hear what's on your mind. So #Morning Live, and it's @Morning Live SABC.